Hello Junior Church and welcome. I hope you've had a wonderful Easter holiday. Now these holidays have felt a little bit different because we've been able to do a few more things coming out of lockdown, and we've been able to see some more familiar faces outdoors, or maybe you've had people to play in your gardens, which has probably felt a little bit different. Now for some families these things haven't happened for a long time, and things like this can make us feel a whole load of different emotions. Now, to give you an example, my children saw their grandparents for the first time since the summer holidays over these holidays, and it made us feel really happy to see them again, but it also was tinged with a little bit of sadness when we thought about all that time that we've missed spending together. I know we're going to have lots of making up to do though, which we're really excited about too. Well, seeing people, going back to school, meeting up with family and friends that you've not seen for a long time, or just doing those activities again that you just haven't done for many, many months can make us feel lots of different emotions too. We can feel almost a little bit confused in what we're feeling. Now, when I think about the past year, I can feel okay. And then it's like my emotions have been running along behind me and all of a sudden they crash into me and I just feel lots and lots of things at the same time. It takes me a little bit by surprise, and maybe you felt like this too, like your emotions are in a little bit of a muddle at the moment. You don't quite know what you're feeling or why you're feeling those things, but that's really, really normal in this situation. This has been a time like no other, and lots of grown-ups are feeling the same. It will settle down, but if you're struggling with how you're feeling at the moment, there are lots of people out there who can help you. Why don't you talk to one of your trusted grown-ups, maybe at home, at school or at church? It's really important to talk at the moment about how we're feeling, and there are lots of people who are ready to listen to you. But what about God? What does he think about how we're feeling? Does he even care? Or is he just too busy doing really important things? Well, here's today's rewind video all about emotions, which I think was a good one to go back to, especially at this time when we're coming out of lockdown. Does God hear how we're feeling? Let's take a look and find out. There's also a very powerful prayer experiment that you can do at home. Morning. How are you doing? It's a bit of a funny question, isn't it, to ask somebody straight away? We say it all the time. Hi, how are you doing? We say it to people when we meet them. We write it in emails or letters or text messages. And what do you think the most common answer is that people say when somebody says, hi, how are you doing? They say, fine. They say fine, or they say good. And sometimes people are actually fine, and other times they just don't really want to share, and sometimes they don't really know where to start on how they're actually feeling. You know, this week, I have to say, I have felt all sorts of emotions. I think I'd done all of these by the end of Monday. And I wanted to tell you the story about what had happened and how God came into that situation. So as I'm telling you the story, have a listen and see if you can spot the different emotions that I was feeling this week. So let's start with Monday. Monday was the start of the new week. We were homeschooling, we were working, and it was really busy. But I did not know what I was going to talk to you about today. And so I prayed about it and I felt a bit more peaceful about that. But I had no ideas about what to talk to you about. And Steve had phoned me in the afternoon and we chatted about it a bit, and I still really didn't have any idea about what to talk to you about. And as the day went on, I started to feel maybe a bit more worried about it. But I thought, don't worry, tomorrow is another day. I'll just sleep on it, I'll wake up in the morning and I'll know what I'm going to do. Well, can you remember what happened on Monday night? A storm hit. Now, I was putting the girls to bed and they felt quite nervous and quite scared by the big rattles of thunder and lightning overhead. But I felt really excited. I really love storms. I love just like the power of the weather, and it makes me think about how awesome and powerful God is. So I was feeling excited, but the rest of the family weren't feeling too excited. So I went to bed, and Tuesday I woke up and I just still had no ideas, and I'm starting to panic now. and feeling quite stressed. So I decided I'd pray again, I'd just try and stay calm, and I decided to go out for a walk. And some strange things started to happen. So before I went, I was having a look at my phone and I watched this incredible interview with the singer called Stormzy, and he just won an award, and he was explaining this amazing testimony that I'll share with you a little bit later on. So I watched that, and then I went out for my walk and I listened to a song on my earphones called Cornerstone. And then when I was walking, it obviously started raining, so I had my brolly up, and I came back and my girls were getting a snack, and they got the bag of carrots out of the fridge, and I kid you not, Junior Church, they pulled this carrot out of the bag and it was in the shape of a lightning bolt. It was like this. I'd never seen anything like it before. And actually, it was at that point that I realised that God had actually been chatting to me the whole time, and I just had not been catching what he was saying because I was getting too worked up and too panicked about my situation. I started thinking about it. Now, there was a storm on the Monday night. Tuesday morning, I listened to an interview with Stormzy. I walked in the rain. I listened to a song called Cornerstone, where one of the lines is, "Through the storm, he is Lord, Lord of all." Then I come back in and there's a carrot shaped like a bolt of lightning, and I all of a sudden realised what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. No, that's not the right picture. Hang on. Today! Storms! The emotional storms. It really got me thinking that God had been there the whole time. I was feeling like this, but God had just been walking alongside me and chatting to me and telling me, but I just had not been catching what he'd said. And it made me think about the incredible power of prayer and how cool it is just to be able to talk to God. Let me tell you about the interview I saw with Stormzy this week as well, because it really fits into what we're talking about today. Now, Stormzy is a singer, and he was playing the biggest concert that he'd ever played before at a festival called Glastonbury. Now, he got onto the stage and he said at that point the sound pack, so everything, his little earphones that he wears that help him hear the music behind him, it just went off and he couldn't hear anything properly. And he just felt really down, and he felt like he'd messed up at the biggest concert that he'd ever done. He describes it as a nightmare, and actually at that point he thought he'd blown it and his music career was over. Now, I have to say, I watched that concert on television and it did not come across like that at all. It was absolutely incredible. And the newspapers the next day reported a different thing as well. They said that it was stunning. It says, "All hail Stormzy." They use words like glorious, triumphant, majestic, historic, powerful, electrifying. That's how they'd seen his performance that night. Now afterwards, Stormzy had spoken to his mum about it, about what had happened and how he'd felt. And she actually hadn't watched the performance because her pastor had had a vision. And in this vision, his whole set had gone wrong at Glastonbury. So his mum, instead of watching the television, she took herself to church. And for the whole time that he was on stage, she stayed in church and she prayed. And Stormzy actually calls her a prayer warrior. She was praying so hard for him in that moment. And really, the newspapers the next day report what happened. And I love that. And in this interview, he says, you know, in my darkest times, God has always been there. What an amazing story that was, and an incredible testimony to the power of prayer and praying for other people. It's just awesome. Now, we're told in the Bible that we can chat to God anytime, anywhere, and that he's always ready to listen to us. And I thought today it would be pretty cool if we did a prayer experiment together, just to show you the power of prayer. Now, for this experiment, you are going to be needing some things from your kitchen. So I would advise that you get a grown-up in your household to help you as well. So the first thing you are going to need is some bicarbonate of soda. Now I've put this in this dish, and I have to say that I don't mind if this dish gets dirty, so please don't use your grown-up's best china because it might get a bit messy. So put some bicarbonate of soda in a dish. The next thing you're going to need is some vinegar. So pour some vinegar into a couple of little cups and colour them with a few drops of food colouring. So you can see here I have got some red vinegar and I've also got some blue vinegar as well. Now you're also going to need something to put the drops of vinegar on the plate with. So you can either use a teaspoon, or if you've got one of those little droppers, they'll work really well. And I've got a couple of syringes that I'm not going to use again, so I'm going to use these ones. Okay, so here we go with the experiment. Now with our red food colouring, we can do this together, and think of somebody that you would like to pray for. So get your bicarbonate of soda, and I'll put it nice and close so you can see. So we're going to pray. Think of somebody that you want to pray for. Okay, so maybe you want to say their name out loud, maybe you want to say their name in your head, and we're going to offer that person up to God and watch what happens when we pray our prayers. Are you ready? Woo! It's an explosion of fizzy prayers as we pray for that person. Woo! Now the next thing we're going to pray for is a situation, and we're going to use our blue colouring for that one. So think of something else that you would like prayer for. Maybe it's something that's going on with you at the moment, or maybe it's homeschooling. Maybe you want to pray for somebody else or something. So think of that other thing that you would like to pray for, and we're going to pray together, and I'm going to fire the food colouring at the bicarbonate of soda and watch those powerful prayers go boom. Ready? Okay, off we go. Whee! There we go, there's our fizzy prayers. So you can try this at home if you want to, if you have the things. Otherwise, you can always just chat to God. That is just as powerful. Or if you want to, because it's been a very stormy time this week, you might want to get yourself a piece of lightning made out of paper, and you could write your powerful prayers on that lightning and pray those to God this week. So have lots of fun and let me know how you get on. So remember, however you're feeling today, whether it's happy or sad or angry or frustrated or just plain silly, God is always ready to listen to you chatting to him. And just think about the awesome powerfulness of prayers. Now, this week we have 2 worship songs just on that theme. So the first one is by a band called Unspoken, and the song is Reason. And the second song is all about chatting to God. It is Ask, Seek, Knock from Hillsongs Kids. Now, those songs can be found on our Sunday Services online page if you want to head over now, or if you're watching at a later date, they can be found on our YouTube playlist. So have a great week. And there is an amazing Old English proverb that says this. Actually, I better head outside to tell you. Come with me. So remember, life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain.
Years felt like 4 seasons of winter, and you'd give anything to feel the sun. Always reaching, always climbing, always second guessing the timing. But God has a plan, a purpose in this. You are his child, and don't you forget. He put that hunger in your heart, he put that fire in your soul. His love is the reason to keep on believing. When you feel like giving up, when you feel like giving in, his love is the reason to keep on believing. everything. Every hour, every minute, every second, he's always been in it. Don't let a shadow of a doubt take hold. Hold on to what you already know. You put that hunger in your heart, you put that fire in your soul. His love is the reason to keep on believing. When you feel like giving up, when you feel like giving in, His love is the reason to keep on believing. It's the reason, it's the reason, His love is the reason. He's the peace in the madness that you can't explain. He's the hope in the heartbreak, the rest in the suffering. He's closer than the air you breathe, from the start to the end, to the in-between. Don't you dare doubt even for a minute what He started in you, yeah, He's gonna finish. You put that hunger in your heart, you put that